Welcome to the October 8th, 2024 Livingston Planning Commission meeting at 7 p.m. Martha, can we do roll call, please?
Roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh.
Present.
Commissioner Jose Flores.
Present.
Vice Chair Rene Mendonca.
Present.
Chair Steve Massey.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Jasneel Singh.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda.
Yes, present.
For the record, all planning commissioners, alternate commissioners, vice chair, and chair are all in attendance.
All right. Can we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, please? All right. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Next item is item number 3, approval of agenda items. And I believe, staff, there's some type of change we need to make to that, so I'll let Miguel, you take over on this.
Thank you, Commission Chair Bassi. Miguel Galvez, the Contract City Planner. The first public hearing item, the one-year time extension for conditional use permit application number use permit 2019-03 and site plan review application number 2019-04 for the Villages at Main Street. That item was scheduled for a public hearing this evening. Staff is requesting that that item be continued to the meeting in December. The Planning Commission in December, I believe that meeting falls on December 10th.
Yes.
So we did schedule it for a public hearing. When we get to that item, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing. And if anyone's here to speak to it, they can present their comments. But I would request that that public hearing be continued to the meeting of December 10th. I would say November 12th, but I have a conflict as I'm at another jurisdiction that evening. I'm sorry for that. So that's my amendment to the agenda. Item 9A will be continued to December 10th. Thank you.
I just have one question. If we postpone this till the next meeting, the extension was until 10/5 of 2024. What happens to that extension? Right, then does it just lay in limbo, or?
Yes, as long as they file an application for extension before the permit expires, their application is kind of on hold.
Okay.
So it doesn't invalidate it, it's just on hold until the city takes action on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. With that, do we move forward with approval of the agenda with that change that's notated?
Yes.
All right. Any motions to approve?
I'll approve that motion.
And I'll second that motion. Martha, go ahead.
Roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh.
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores.
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rene Mendonca.
Yes.
Chair Steve Massey.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
All right. Now on to the fourth item, public comment. Miguel, am I required to read the whole thing, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll read the public comment notice. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the commission on items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Speakers shall be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers will be asked to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the chairperson has the option of asking the speaker to hold the comment until that item is called. comments on the items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The commission is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the commission does not respond to the public comment at this time. So we're opening up the public comment period at this time. Anybody, do we have anybody on the phone or out in the public that wishes to address? All right, so we'll close public comment period at 7:05. Next item is item number 5, any written correspondence, and there seems to be none. Correct, Martha?
Correct. There has been no written correspondence on any of the items that are scheduled for this evening. There is written correspondence, but I can review that on my director's report.
Got it.
That's
Okay,
on a non-agenda item.
got it. So we'll move on to item number 6, approval of minutes, and we have, we'll have two. One's going to be April 9th of 2024 minutes, and then item number B is going to be June 11th of 2024 minutes. Miguel, do you prefer that we break this up into 2 and approve, or just approve item number 6 as a whole, which combines both of the A and Bs?
Each of the meeting minutes should be reviewed and approved separately.
Okay. All right. Commission, anybody that wants to make a motion to approve the item 6A, which will be the April 9th, 2024 minutes?
I reviewed them and didn't see any changes, so I'll motion to approve those.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Can we get Martha, can we get the roll call?
Roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh Paul,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda,
Yes.
Vice Chair Renee Mendonca,
Yes.
Chair Steve Bassi.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
All right. Moving on to item number B, under section 6, June 11th of 2024 minutes. Can I get a motion, or can we get a motion to approve the June 11th of 2024 minutes?
I make a motion that we,
All right. So Jose's making the motion, and then Renee's seconding that motion. Martha, can we get a roll call, please?
Roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh Paul,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores,
yes.
Mohinder Kanda,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda, sorry. Vice Chair Renee Mendonca,
Yes.
Chair Steve Bassi.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
All right, item number 7, conflict of interest declaration. Members of the Planning Commission will declare an actual or apparent conflict of interest before discussions or decisions about any matters in which they or anyone with whom they have any close personal relationship could directly or indirectly benefit, or where such a benefit could be perceived. At this time, anybody from the commission wishes to declare a conflict?
No.
I want to bring myself forward for this. Items number B, or items number 9 under the public hearings, under B and C, there's no, I would say there's no direct conflict, but my parents do own the Chevron service station at Walnut and Hammett. So therefore, as an abundance of caution, I'll be recusing myself from this item. And Miguel, do you want me to go step in the audience for this portion while Renee takes charge, or am I?
The appropriate thing would be for you to vacate the building.
Okay, I'll vacate the building.
And there's no consent calendar, so I don't know if there's any other conflicts of interest.
Yeah, any other conflict of interest?
Yeah, myself as well for B and C. I am related to Chair Bassi, so I don't have anything, that can be perceived as that, but I would like to recuse myself as well.
So Chair Bassi and Commissioner, is it Singh? I'm sorry, we haven't met before. Will be stepping down for items 9B and 9C. And Vice Chair, Commissioner Mendonca will be running the meeting when we get to the public hearing items.
Okay. All right, so when we get to those items, both Jasnew and I will vacate the building. But moving on to, if there's no other declarations, moving on to item number 8, consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission may request an item to be removed from the consent calendar, and it will be considered separately. There is no items on the consent calendar, so we'll be moving on to item number 9. Obviously, we've already addressed, or do you want to address this again, Miguel? Item number 9A or?
Yes.
Okay.
Postponed.
I will identify item number 9A, public hearing. This is a one-year time extension for conditional use permit application, CUP 2019-03, and site plan design review application number SPDR 2019-04 for the Villages at Main Street Residential Apartment Community Project. The project consists of construction of a 480-unit residential apartment complex on a site located on the southeast intersection of Peach Avenue and Main Street/Lincoln Boulevard. As I mentioned earlier, this item was scheduled for a public hearing to consider, again, a time extension. Staff did request legal counsel to be present. Unfortunately, our legal counsel has a meeting conflict. They're at a different meeting currently right now, and so they're not able to be here. For that reason, staff will be asking that this item be continued to the meeting in December. I would like to be here. I would like to schedule for November, but I myself won't be here in November because I have a conflict myself, as I'll be at a different jurisdiction. So it would be appropriate for the chair to open the public hearing, see if there's any comments, and if there's no comments, to move that the public hearing be continued to the Planning Commission meeting in December. Are there any questions on the item or anything?
To open up the public comment.
If not, you can open the public hearing.
All right, at this point, we'll open up the public hearing for item 9A.
I do have questions. Can I ask them after public comment period? Or does it have to be before?
No, you can,
Before or after?
yeah, you can ask them.
I'll just do it after then.
Okay. Any public comment, any on the phone or, no? All right, we'll close the public comment period, but Debjit, if you have questions?
Yeah, so as I was reading through this, staff had listed the MID review process as
Yes.
the reason for delay in this project. But I did see that that process was finalized as of September of last year. And it was also listed that there's certain work that needs to be done in the winter. And so was it not possible to begin work on the project after September and during the winter months of this past winter?
It's physically possible. They need to coordinate with MID. The applicant has not given me a reason why they were not able to commence construction. I don't know, the applicant is here. I don't see them here. And we can ask them to respond. On the application itself, it did not list a reason why they requested a time extension. I wish I can give you more information, but I don't have that information.
I have a couple other questions as well. So we listed that we've already dedicated water and sewer services towards this project, but obviously we, as a whole, are lacking water right now. So if construction started, let's just say in the next 3 months, does the city have enough capacity to supply water to the project, or would we have to wait until the construction of our new well projects?
I will try to answer, and I'll ask our city engineer to be available. My understanding is that our water projections for water capacity incorporate this project, so there's capacity to serve it. The applicant could have pulled a building permit or could have pulled a grading permit to kind of keep the application alive. I know they've spoken to me, and they're still interested in moving forward. I don't know why they haven't moved forward. But the project does have a commitment from the city at this point. Now, if the application is, the time extension is denied, then that kind of frees up water capacity for other projects within the city limits that want to move forward. But if it is approved, then it kind of maintains that water right reservation, if you will, and keeps our project alive.
Thank you. And then I have one more. It was listed that this project is going to raise property taxes in the city. Do we know by how much, or is there a way to calculate that?
I don't know by how much, and it's going to be depending on the value, of the properties when it is assessed. When the construction is completed, then the assessor will come out and evaluate it. But right now, it's farmland. So once you get improvements on that, it's going to raise it significantly. I don't know what that value will be.
All right, thank you.
I had also had some questions, but I had kind of discussed it with you, Miguel, and I guess when everybody is here that needs to be to address some of the issues like the attorney and that, then again, I'll save my comments for then. I did have one question that just keeps working at me on this. Have they said the main reason they have not moved forward as of today?
The last time I spoke with the applicant, which was maybe 3 weeks ago, they were telling me that they're working with a nonprofit affordable housing development company, like a self-help enterprise or someone.
Oh, okay.
And they're looking at making that property available to build affordable housing on the site. And I know the property's been up for sale, or is up for sale, but when I spoke with him, he said that they're working with a nonprofit affordable housing developer, and they want to, I suspect they'll reduce the number of units that are out there. It'll free up some capacity. But I've seen no application come forward, and so they're interested in keeping the project alive to give an opportunity for an affordable housing developer to come in and develop the site with a multifamily affordable housing project. Again, all this is, it's just based on passing conversations. There's nothing official.
So if it changes to an affordable housing project, does that change anything as far as the scope of what Livingston is looking at it?
If a new developer comes in, they would have to provide a project description, a site plan, and we would compare with, what was approved. If it's minor and very similar to what was approved, we can kind of approve it as a minor modification to the site. If it has some significant changes, then it would be required to come back to the Planning Commission and City Council and move forward that way. I know affordable housing is a key issue for the city. It's one of the requirements for our housing element, and so until we have an application in hand, it's kind of hard to determine what's coming up. Between now and in December, I will reach out to the applicant and try to request additional information for justifying their request.
Okay, just trying to better understand why we haven't moved forward, but again, for affordable housing, I know that RENA and our goals are to afford moderate to affordable housing, which would be beneficial to the city. But yeah, so you'll let us know on that, on basically what the exact kind of reason is and if it's turning into affordable housing.
Yes, that's, again, the conversation I've had with the applicant, but the applicant has not submitted any new development application, so
Okay,
I cannot speak with certainty other than what he's told me.
okay, thank you, Miguel.
And then Miguel, just with that, that doesn't need to come back to the planning side, correct? Because isn't there, now staff can make that determination if it's anything to do with affordable housing?
Yes, I mean, the applicant has a couple options. One, they can move forward with their current proposal and, you know, request the extension and nothing's changed. Or two, they can revise the application, and depending on the changes, it may require it to come back to Planning Commission and City Council for a site plan design review application. So it'll depend on what they propose, and I wish they were here, but they're not here tonight. to
Yeah, I
provide
think
more
it's a
information.
better forum with the parties and the attorney present, so we can,
Yes.
But even if our attorney was here, legal counsel was here, the owner isn't here of the project, or no representative. So can we make sure that they're going to be able to be here in the December meeting, Miguel?
Well, we always request that they attend. We think it's good practice for the applicants to be here in person, to respond to questions, to really promote their project, but I'm not sure why they're not here. I don't know if you heard anything, Martha?
No, there was no response back, but usually, yeah, we do send emails letting them know, and the agenda, a copy of the agenda letting
Well,
them know.
being here shows commitment.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you. Okay.
So just to make it clear, we had already allocated water for this project, so the water that we have is for that. So another thing that's changed a lot, because I was opposed to this project when it first came out because of the type of buildings that were going in and the lack of fire protection that we have, and now we may not have any fire protection for those buildings. And they were asking for an extension on a project. So I don't know how that factors in to allowing for an extension when we may not have fire protection for a three-story multi-family dwelling, high density in our jurisdiction. So that might be another thing that we may have to discuss, especially when we're talking about extending a project that hasn't moved.
We'll certainly bring that into consideration for our continued item when we meet on this again.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough analysis to draw, because that could be drawn for any future project that, you know what I mean? Any type of future project, if we're going to
Absolutely.
draw that conclusion, so.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a discussion to be had. All right, so do we need, for this continuance, do we need approval from the commission? Miguel?
Yes, let's go ahead and do request a motion to
Okay.
continue this item to the Plan Commission meeting of December 10th.
Got it. All right.
Or-
So for item number 9A, public hearing for the one-year extension for the conditional use permit application 2019-03, and for the plan design review application 2019-04, if we can get a motion to continue that item to the December 10th of 2024 meeting. I can make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve that. We postponed till December 10th.
So I made the motion, you
Oh,
second?
I'll second it. I'll second the motion then.
Okay, just to be clear. All right, Martha, can we get roll call, please?
Yes, roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh Upal,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda,
Yes.
Vice Chair Renee Bendanka,
Yes.
Chair Steve Bassi.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 9B and C, so Jasneel and I will vacate, and Renee,
Okay.
take ship.
Okay.
We will wait for them to leave the
Yes.
building, and then we can continue.
Okay, moving on to number 9, public hearings, item B, conditional use permit number and various application, I should read the whole thing. Quickway Travel Plaza, a request to install an 80-foot-high freeway-oriented sign on a previously approved truck travel center. The application also includes a variance request to exceed the maximum area allowance of a freeway-oriented sign. The maximum area allowance for a freeway-oriented sign is 500 square feet per sign. The applicant requests signage of approximately 1,115 square feet per side. So at this point, are we going to have a presentation? Is that what we're going to have?
Yes, you asked for a staff report, and I'll give a staff report.
Okay.
And then there's an opportunity for questions, then we can open it up for public comment or a public hearing.
Okay, so we need to open it up for public comment?
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you can ask staff, okay, staff, will you give me provide a staff report? So I will do an oral presentation right now.
Okay.
Okay, with your permission, I will start then.
Yes, thank you for starting.
So we have a PowerPoint. I will try to be as quick as I can. Again, this conditional use permit application, CUP 2024-01, and variance application 2024-01 for the Quickway Travel Plaza Moonglow Truck Stop Complex. I know some of the commissioners here are new. I want to introduce myself and 2 members of the audience. Members at home, I'm Miguel Galvez, contract planner for the city of Livingston. I will be doing the presentation. Let me see, do I click here or there? Give me a minute, we're going to make a connection here. So my clicker can work. Okay, let's try it.
I'll do it for you.
Okay, it looks like the clicker's not cooperating today. Just to be real clear, I'll just read the slide here. It's a request to install an 80-foot-high freeway-oriented sign, and it involves a variance request to exceed the maximum allowance for a freeway-oriented sign. The applicant requests 1,100 square feet per side. The maximum area allowed for signage right now is 500 square feet per side. Let me go to the next slide. Just to get us orientated, the subject property is located generally on the south side of Campbell Avenue, east of Hammett Avenue. It involves all those properties. Actually, this is the whole project site. The sign will be located in the middle parking lot, and I'll show that in a minute. State Route 99 is along the south side there. The next slide. Here's an aerial of the neighborhood. As you know, there's a new AM/PM market, a convenience store and fueling station on the west side of Hammett Avenue. We have Hammett Avenue, the overcrossing there as well. Properties north of Hammett Avenue are commercial and industrial. The property is vacant. The property does include a storm drainage basin. That storm drainage basin is used to collect and retain water that's on the site and the surrounding streets as well. Let me go to the next slide. In terms of zoning, here's a zoning map. You can see the storm drainage area is kind of highlighted or identified by that gray area, which is PF. The zoning designation for that is quasi-public facility. Basically, since it's used as a storm drain, you cannot have commercial uses on that property until it's rezoned to commercial. So the intent is to relocate that storm drainage basin to the property to the south. I mean, to the south of the project site. I added some pictures over there on the left so you can see what the site looks like. The next slide. Here's a copy of the site plan that was submitted and approved by the City Council in September 2024. This is the whole Moonglow Quickway site. If you start on the west, there's a number of quick service restaurants. There's 2 quick service restaurants where the storm drainage basin would be located. In the middle is a convenience store, a fueling station. Going further east on that, there's a truck. It's changed. It used to be a tire store, a truck wash, and there was going to be a convenience store, but that has been amended, so now it's, I think, just a truck shop and tire repair there, a truck wash. And then the area in yellow would be the location, the new storm drainage basin. So basically, this is what was approved by the Planning Commission in 2024. Oh, thank you. Our city engineer is giving me a little laser here I can point.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Noe. I do want to point out that the project will be developed in 2 phases. Phase 1 will be basically this area right in here. Phase 2 will be this area right in here where the storm drainage basin is. This will also be developed as part of Phase 2 as it changes. Let me go to the next slide. Thank you. The proposed 80-foot freeway-oriented sign is proposed to be located along the south side of the subject parcel. This is the actual parcel that it will sit on. It's outlined in red there. So the sign will be located right about there. Go to the next slide. Here's, like I said, it's going to be double face, so people that are on the freeway can see it, face looking toward the west, and then again looking this way. So it'll be perpendicular to Highway 99. And that's the location of the 80-foot high sign. The next slide, please. Now, the applicants are proposing to construct only one freestanding sign. They are allowed to do more, but they want to put them all on one location. Again, that's the reason for the additional square footage. It will consist of LED lighting for the fuel prices, and then these panels will be illuminated here for the business that will be located on site. This type of sign is ideal. It's tall, it's high, and you kind of put them all together rather than having a, I don't want to say clutter, but just additional signage there. And so it makes it more attractive. Go to the next slide, please. With a use permit and a variance application, there are findings that have to be made. The use permit is required because the applicant can install a 60-foot high sign just by a building permit by right. But when you go above 60 feet, then a conditional use permit is required, which has to be approved by the Planning Commission. It does not go to the City Council. It can be appealed to the City Council. And then the same thing with the zoning ordinance variance. As I mentioned earlier, the zoning code requires 500 square feet per side as a maximum unless you can ask for a variance. And then there's special findings that have to be made to justify the variance, which is also reviewed and considered by the Planning Commission. When staff reviewed both the use permit and the variance, we really did not find any concern with the design or any development issues. The next slide, please. As I talk about the use permit, there's 4 basic use permit findings, basically to approve any use permit, whether it's a home or a business. The proposed use must be adequate in size and shape. The streets must be adequate to carry the traffic Public facilities have to be available to serve the site, and the proposed conditions are necessary to preserve the general welfare. Staff believes these findings can be met, and the findings are included in the staff report and in the agenda, but real quickly, I'll just say what those are. With the approval of the accompanying variance request, the proposed elevations for the proposed freeway-oriented site will meet the development standards in the C3 Highway Zoning Commercial District. 2, the site fronts on Campbell Avenue, a developed public street that was designed to carry the traffic of the proposed commercial land use. 3, public facilities and utilities are available and adequate to serve the subject site. 4, the proposed site plan elevations and conditions of approval will ensure that the development will conform to the city's development standards for development within the highway commercial zone and preserve the general welfare of the community. These are the findings that staff has identified that can be met to approve the use permit. Can we go to the next slide? We have to make similar findings under the variance application. They're listed there. Staff believes the findings for granting the variance can be made. Specifically, 1, the proposed sign is located on property next to the State Highway 99, next to a highway off-ramp. So that's extraordinary because you got the off-ramp that kind of blocks the view, so it makes sense to make it a little taller. 2, the proposed sign will be served to promote commercial establishments on land designated for commercial land uses. So it's consistent with the general plan. The proposed sign plans to serve the entire development site, having all site signage panels on one property, and will preserve the enjoyment of advertising enjoyed by other uses in the area. So other businesses over on Winton Parkway have similar enjoyment of signs. Number 4, the proposed project was referred to city departments and state agencies, at which none commented that the proposal will be materially detrimental to the public. Caltrans initially provided a comment, but they retracted it. They thought this was on Highway Interstate 5. They're like, oh, no, never mind, that doesn't apply. But Caltrans did not have any concerns with a sign, which is always a concern whether it's too bright and they did not express any concern with that, which is good for the project. Next slide, please. When we look at any proposal, the general plan, what does the general plan call for in guidance? And so we have these land use objectives, A and B. Whenever we look at a project, we like to ensure that we meet these standards, or not standards, but these goals. Objective A is ensure that the provision of adequate commercial shopping opportunities in office space locations are there to meet anticipated needs. So this is kind of vacant property, it's zoned commercial, so it makes sense to continue to facilitate commercial development and signage for commercial buildings will lend itself to making it more successful. Objective B, provide for compatible integration of residential and commercial uses. There really isn't any residential uses in the area, it's all commercial. And so having additional commercial uses where commercial is, it just makes it more compatible. So this is an area where, staff fully supports the development of, this sign in a commercial zone. The next slide. Under environmental review, the proposed action was part of the larger development project of the site, which I mentioned earlier, which was approved in 2022. At that time, an initial study was prepared for the development of the whole site. On September 6, 2022, the City Council adopted an initial study mitigated negative declaration for the whole project. There were some mitigation measures that were identified, and those were incorporated as a mitigation monitoring reporting program and factored in as conditions of approval for the project. A notice of determination was filed with the county clerk on September 9, 2022. That kind of completes the environmental review process. And there are no additional environmental review that's required. They've pretty much completed it, and so I just want to go on record of commenting that a lot of this information is included in the Planning Commissioner's agenda packet. The next slide, please. Under public comment, as we mentioned, a public hearing was published in the newspaper, and when notice was mailed out to surrounding properties that are within 300 feet of the project site. Staff received no comments on the application. The applicant was referred to city departments, trustee agents like PG&E and Caltrans, and none of them identified any concerns. So we really had no opposition to it. Next slide. In conclusion, staff has the following recommendation. 1, conduct the public hearing. 2, adopt the attached resolution approving use permit 2024-01 and variance application 2024-01 to install an 80-foot high freeway-oriented sign with approximately 1,115 square feet of advertising space per side. That concludes my presentation. If you can go to the next slide. If there's any questions, staff is available to respond.
I just have one question. So have any other businesses requested a variance in their signage? For example, like TA, they say they do an extension on their property, and they said, you know what? You guys just allowed one over there. Would they be allowed to do the same on their property?
The TA sits further back from the freeway, so that's exactly what I wanted to know. What standard were they held to?
A freeway-oriented sign has to be within 500 feet of the actual highway right-of-way. So if it's beyond 500 feet, then they cannot enjoy a freeway-oriented sign, a property that's next to the freeway. They can always request to, apply for a variance or a use permit to do that. Whether they've chosen to do that or not, I mean, they can always. We haven't heard of a request for them to kind of amend their signage there. Actually, they applied for a sign permit recently to kind of update the signage. They have not requested additional height or additional area.
Okay, how about this? Was when we approved the TA site, was there a variance change from any of our local ordinances that would have prevented them from being able to put the sign they have now? Because I know things change. I don't want to say I'm opposed to the sign, because a lot of our municipalities, our neighbors are going to very similar signs. If you go to Turlock, you go to Merced just developed a site that has a sign that's very similar. But I just want to make sure that if we're giving the opportunity to one business, that we give it to others, so that we're equal across the board. And I wanted to make sure that if we do approve this, how are we going to accommodate other businesses if they wanted to have a sign that was similar and maybe didn't meet every single requirement?
That's a good question. The issue of parity, fairness is always important. When Travel Centers of America developed, I don't know when it did, but it's been many years. I don't know what the sign ordinance was at that time, and maybe they just built it to the sign standards. But if Travel Centers of America or any other business along the freeway were to request, additional size or additional height, they would be required to go through the same process as we're going through now. So they're not prohibited from doing that.
So if we were to, I'm sorry.
Just one, yeah.
Okay.
So then not to that. So then we're approving the sign, but if there's a municipal code that's against it, what are we approving then? Just a question, because if there's already a city code that says that this isn't allowed, and we're giving a variance for it, are we going to be looking into changing the city ordinance to meet the new variance? Is that going to be included with this change that we're doing?
Yeah, I can see how that may come across that way. Basically, there's a sign chapter, and it has all the rules and regulations for each zoning district. And there's an additional area for freeway signs, freeway-oriented signs. And within the sign chapter, it does have a provision for variance for the sign code. One can ask, well, why would you want to vary? Why not just amend the zoning code? And I think there's a lot of factors that come into address that. It's like, you know, how many signs are on the property? How many businesses on the property? How close are you to the freeway? You know, does it make sense to do what they call a gang sign? I'm not talking about, you know, these gang signs that you use with your
Right.
hands, but a sign where they're all put on the same freestanding sign. And those make a lot of sense. Lots of communities like Interlock, they have specific signs along the freeway that's like, you know, if you're going to advertise along the shopping center, it has to be in this area, and we will approve it, and we'll tell you what the parameters are. Until the city adopts such as, you know, a sign program like that, we're taking these applications on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Well, and the only reason I bring up the code, because we're giving a variance that's twice the recommended portion of what the code is. If it was a slight, like, we're adding 10 feet, you know, I'm not opposed to that. But we're doubling our municipal code. And again, I'm not opposed to the sign. I'm just saying that we're adding a lot to it. And I kind of feel like we're putting the cart in front of the horse here. If city code has a specific item on there that says this is what we allow, and then now we're going to double it, that's my only concern on that. I mean, again, not opposed to the sign, just.
I want
the
to
way
add
we're
one
going
more
about it.
thing, and that is, again, you know, the height is allowed if you get a use permit approved by the planning commission. Now, when it comes to the amount of area that's being advertised, again, the code says 500 feet. They're proposing 1,115 square feet. And I think the trade-off is that you're getting one sign rather than multiple signs. And you combine it into one sign, it has them all, and you're not, I don't like to use the word clutter, but it becomes busy. And like, oh,
Right.
there's a lot of signs, and it makes sense to kind of concentrate them into one sign from a staff perspective. I'm sorry, I think that you had a question.
And I think that, thank you, and I think that that sign that concentrates with everybody on there, when somebody, one of the businesses or one of the convenience stores shuts down, or that is removed off of there, instead of a sign specifically for one thing, and when it closes down, you've got this sign left. What my concern is that, I mean, we're talking about direct competition. We already have a truck stop. We're adding another one. That variance was offered, or wasn't it not taken from the TA? Now you're going to have another competition down the street whose sign might stand taller, that's for the more people to see. And it's closer to the freeway than what we're dealing with there. So I just want to be fair. I want to stay to the standard. I do think it's a little overkill, but then again, if it's one sign for all the businesses that are going to be at the truck stop, then I can see that. So I, again, just wanted to say, was that offered to the TA? Could they come back and say, oh, now that their sign is higher, we're losing business, or we think we need to adjust our sign? And would we do so?
Yeah, and all I can say is that if a business wants to pursue that, they can apply, just like the applicant has applied here. We're not prohibiting them from applying, and that request will come to the commission. Whether they feel there's a need to do that, it's up to them to decide. I don't want to say encourage or discourage them, but it's them to, you know, decide how to run their business, and
Yeah,
let them make that call.
okay. And, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, absolutely, because I was going to ask a question about if we're going to break these apart into two sections, so go ahead, hon.
Just a comment to piggyback off of what you guys just mentioned. I think obviously this is much greater than the current limit set by our code. But if we are going to have multiple businesses in one spot, I do think these signs do serve really well. Like you mentioned, what's going on. I think you're talking about Mission and Campus in Merced, right, where they have development going there. In fairness to this applicant, TA is kind of like a solo truck stop. It's not a multi-serve area. And so long as we can apply the same, I'd say, judgment to TA, I don't necessarily see an issue with it. Did want to mention, if anybody knows what the code looks like in different cities by any chance in terms of their limit, like is 500 feet a Livingston thing, or does that seem to be common elsewhere? Because maybe we think about updating that at some point. Because you're right, TA could come back next meeting and say, hey, now we want a sign, and maybe it's time, maybe it's due for an updated code.
Well, and the TA does have some other businesses in there, you know, Burger King, Popeyes, and all of that. But I just kind of wanted to know, again, and it's the sign, I think, that they're requesting is because of the changes that are coming through with, as we progress in development. And that, and I see it, but just kind of wanted to know what our standard is. Will we vary again from that standard?
And, you know, it may be that the city initiates an amendment to the zoning, not the zoning code, but the sign code, the sign chapter, and they reevaluate all this. But at this point, we're just considering the application that we have at hand. And from a staff perspective, it makes sense to have one sign that has all the business on one site rather than having them spread around. And
So we'll go one step at a time.
yes, I don't know.
So I guess, yeah, don't get me wrong, this is what I said, I'm not disagreeing with the sign, because if you look at the TA section, you see 100 signs out there. It's like you try to decipher what's there, and you have to see everything. When you're coming in Merced, going to Turlock, you clearly see what's in those shopping centers. I'm not opposed to the sign. The only concern I have is we have a municipal code, and again, doesn't mean it can't be updated. I'm just saying if we're pushing this variance forward, if there's also a recommendation for the council in there saying, hey, we may want to update our municipal code to
Yeah.
fit the changes that we're providing going forward, so that this is the new standard. Because we're
Right.
providing something new, and I think it's a really great, I mean, the variance is very large. So to me, it would be, I don't know if there's something that we can do to push that agenda also forward. So that if the TAs come in the future, it shouldn't be that where they're asking for a variance, they're just asking for the standard.
Staff would be happy to relay a message of the commissioner's sentiment. I know the mayor was here. I don't see that he's here right now. And usually there's we have Councilmember Bob Wallace that represents the council. He can also convey that to the balance of the council. The commissioners.
I'm not acting as a council member right now, and I don't want to be influencing the planning commission.
Okay.
It's your decision, and whatever you decide still has to go to the city council, right? The variance, Miguel?
The use permit and the variance do not have to go to the city council. But staff will be happy to relay the commissioner's sentiment to request that the council initiate or consider amending the sign chapter to be more contemporary. If there's no other questions, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing and see if there's anyone on the phone or in the audience that would like to address the commission.
So we're going to open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the audience have any comments? Martha, is anybody on the phone that would have any comments? Okay. So then I guess we're moving on to, and Miguel, I'm not sure, do we want to take this as B and C, or are we wanting to approve both of them under one, but separate, of course, right?
Yeah, my recommendation is that Planning Commission approve the resolution that approves both the use permit and the variance together
All under one.
under one, yes, if they're in agreement to do so.
Okay, so I move that we approve the variance and the rezoning for the storm basin.
Well, that's a different item.
Oh.
We're just talking about the use permit and the variance right now.
Okay, the use permit and the variance right now. So I move that we approve those.
I'll second it.
So it's moved by Vice Chair Renee Mendonca and a second by Commissioner, JP?
Jipjeet.
Jepjeet, okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Second by Jepjeet. If we can ask for the roll call,
Okay, Martha, can we get a roll call?
Yes, roll call. Commissioner, sorry. Commissioners Japjit Singh Paul,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Mohinder Kanda,
yes.
Vice Chair Rene Mendanka.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 4-0.
So then do we go on to the public hearing for item C, 9C, for the storm basin?
Okay, we can continue that. Let me ask Martha to change the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, not yet. I'm sorry, we're going to
Not
item
yet.
9C. So if you guys can just hold on a little bit longer.
That was B.
Yeah, which is,
That was B. We still have C.
yes. Arrived a little early, sorry. Okay.
This is for the rezoning.
Item 9C, if you want, I can move forward with the presentation, Commissioner or Chair Mendonca.
Would you please move forward with the presentation, Miguel?
Okay, thank you. I just don't want to go out of turn, I'm sorry. I'm used to a certain protocol. Item 9C is a public hearing for general plan amendment application number GPA 2023-02 and rezone application number 2023-02 is a request to amend the general plan land use diagram and rezone the property previously approved for a storm drain basin to accommodate the Moonglow Development Project approved by the Livingston City Council in September 2022. The proposed general plan amendment is to redesignate the project site from PF Public Facility to HC Highway Commercial. The proposed rezoning request is to amend the project site from public quasi-public facility, PF, to C3 Highway Service Commercial. I have another PowerPoint presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Well, I pretty much covered this slide already, but again, this is the request to move forward with the general plan rezone application as mentioned. The next slide. This involves the same property that we talked about a few minutes ago, the Moonglow site. Now we're talking about the,
Storm basin.
you can see the whole project site again. It's on the south side of Campbell Avenue, east of Hammett Avenue. Here's another picture of the aerial view. We kind of talked about that already. Next slide, Martha. Thank you. Here's some pictures of the site. If you haven't been out there, it's pretty much in development except for the storm drain basin that's out there. And you can see that on the bottom left corner there. Again, it's next to the Hammett Campbell Avenue intersection and Hammett Avenue off-ramp. Next slide. The current general plan, again, we're talking about general plan and zoning. The general plan designation for the site is that gray area. It's PF, as I mentioned. But you can see some of the surrounding general plan designations. There's HC, which is that kind of peach color, and then like the darker peach color is like service commercial. So there's highway commercial and service commercial. You can see those there. The next slide. Here's what the proposed general plan amendment will look like. The area in question is the area that's colored. So the general plan again is PF. That's a portion, and it will be changed to highway commercial, as shown on the right. The next slide. This is dealing with a zoning district, very similar. The zoning for the site is PF. It's public/quasi-public facility, PF. The surrounding uses are C3 highway service commercial. Next slide. And again, this is a similar map. The zoning map shows PF and is being changed to C3. Again, this is to allow development of that whole Moonglow project site. Next slide. Here's again a site plan that was approved by the city council back in 2022. I won't go over all the details about it, but if you can go to the next slide, Martha. It is being proposed to develop in two phases. The area in red right here is phase one. The next slide will show phase two. And phase two is where the storm drain basin is located. So they're not able to do phase two until we get that property rezoned and as a general plan commercial designation of highway service commercial. So they're interested in moving forward. Thank you. Issues, we talked about the existing storm drain basin. Basically, that has to be relocated, as I mentioned, to the far east. But before they can build any development on the site, it needs a proper zoning and general plan destination. That's the purpose of this. It's my understanding that they have business that are interested in developing at that site already. So the applicant is anxious to move this project forward. The project was approved to have 2 quick service restaurants in that area. They will have drive-through service on that. And again, these are properties that approved under the site plan design review process that was happening in 2022. So the footprint, the layout of those properties has pretty much been approved. It's just this cleanup work that we have to do. Next slide. Again, just a little more detail on the stormwater basin. It presently serves the site and adjacent streets that drain into it. It will be relocated to the east, and it will continue to transfer that drainage area into the new location. So it will continue to serve the adjacent streets as well as the site. It's just relocating, and the applicant will be responsible for relocating all the infrastructure to make that possible. Next slide. Back when the project was approved, as I mentioned, there was traffic impacts and mitigation measures. Campbell Avenue, sometimes it's Campbell Boulevard, depending if it's on east or west side of Hammett Boulevard. It's designated as a truck route. It will be, one of the mitigation measures was to require to be widened to a 5-lane arterial street. The traffic improvement analysis also required frontage improvements. It required Caltrans approval of the intersection of Camet and Campbell Avenue. That has been done. And it requires the applicant to pay their fair share of those costs. And there was 5 additional mitigation measures which are included in the staff report. Again, when we talk about any type of a proposal, we always like to compare how does it compare with the city's general plan. The areas intended to be developed with highway commercial uses, they were just recognizing that storm drain basin as a public facility because it was used as a public facility, but now it doesn't make sense to do that. It makes sense to have the whole property developed with commercial uses, and this will do that. We already talked about the circulation element, the street classification being a 5-lane arterial for Campbell Boulevard. It also serves as a truck route. When a truck route is designated, it also requires additional load-bearing improvements on the actual road itself. The other issue is the city has gone from not just level of service review for congestion, but also has vehicle miles traveled to minimize greenhouse gases. This is interesting, only the fact that for many years, mitigation measures were designed just to reduce congestion, but now it also incorporates vehicle miles traveled. So that's something that was addressed in the environmental assessment. Next slide. As I mentioned, the initial study mitigated negative declaration was prepared. There was a public review period that occurred from December 20, 2020 through January 21, 2021. Those are interesting dates, by the way. And mitigation measures were identified to reduce the impacts, to bring all effects to a point of being less than significant. As I mentioned, this happened, the council reviewed the initial study and mitigating negative declaration was adopted, and staff completed the whole process for that. So the environmental review process has been completed. Next slide. Whenever we use a environmental assessment, we have to make certain findings, and these are the findings: that the project consistent with a program, policy, or plan or ordinance which with the previous EIR or MID was prepared, was consistent with the plan that was approved by the City Council, the site plan design review. Number two, the project is consistent with the general plan zoning. Once the general plan and zoning are approved, then they will be consistent with the city's land use designations. And the project, as revised or mitigated, will not result in any significant impacts not identified in the previous EIR. When we referred this out to, again, city departments and public agencies, we did not receive any comments of any additional environmental concerns and things like that. Thank you. Next slide. Again, under public comment, a public hearing notice was published in the newspaper and notice was mailed to surrounding properties. Staff has not received any comments on this application request. We have not received any letters or phone calls or anything like that. The applications were referred to city departments, trustee agencies, and none of them have expressed any concerns with the rezone or general plan requests. Next slide. At this point, staff recommends that the Plan Commission conduct a public hearing and approve the attached Planning Commission resolutions recommending to the City Council approval of the General Plan Amendment Application 2023-02 and rezoning Application 2302 for Phase 2 of the Moonglow Incorporated Truck Stop Complex at 23 Campbell Avenue. Next slide. With that, that concludes my presentation. Staff is available for questions, myself and Noe Martinez over there, our city engineer. So if there's any staff questions, if there's any questions of staff, we're happy to respond.
I had a question, but I guess we talked about this, Miguel. I had asked why the storm drain wasn't already approved or the rezoning wasn't there for approval. And we had kind of talked about this was prior to some of us being here, and that it basically should have been done in some of the steps, but was not taken care of at the time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I don't like to disparage past staff, but I would have included the rezone and general plan amendment in the original approval process. But right now, we're just doing cleanup work.
Okay, cleanup part, okay. So then, do any of the commissioners have any questions? Does anybody out? Do I ask? Oh, I'm sorry, you do? I'm sorry, I missed you.
No, you're all good. Just to confirm, construction hasn't started on this project, right?
That's correct.
And so this rezoning is for the Phase 2 of the project, not for Phase 1?
That's correct.
Right.
We have building permits for development of Phase 1. Building permits are in for Phase 1. For Phase 2, I know there's some interest in developing out there, and I think they're anxious to move forward with the building permits for that Phase 2. But the rezone and general plan amendment only applies for that PF zone area in Phase 2.
Right. The only reason I ask is because obviously this was approved over 2 years ago at this point, and so I'm just curious to know what have been like biggest barriers to not have any construction started in that area as of now?
Well, the applicants are here, they can respond. I can tell you for Phase 1, they've submitted building permits, encroachment permits, things like that, and they can speak to that. I know we have been reviewing those. We can ask them to come up during the public hearing process.
I do have another question. In the mitigation monitoring / reporting program, you mentioned this in the slides too, there's certain things that the applicant is going to pay their quote fair share of costs for, like traffic lights. How is that calculated? Like what that fair share is that in code? And like how is that determined?
I'll ask Noe to come up and speak on that. Usually that is based on the traffic impact analysis that's done for the project. They identify the trips that are generated and where they're coming from and how they're affecting the existing streets. But Noe is much more versed in this area. Noe, can you speak to how traffic costs are calculated?
Now it is. Yes, good evening, Planning Commission members, Chair. Noe Martinez from the Office of the City Engineer. And to answer your question, Planning Commissioner Jabjeet, normally the city will have what they call a schedule of impact fees that will include a set amount that each developer has to contribute for various purposes, including traffic impacts. But for Livingston, that's not the case. So what happens is when a project comes forward, what staff has been doing as a practice is the fees are basically, or the fair shares are basically determined based on the percentage that the project contributes to impact. So when they do their traffic analysis, we'll ask for those percentages to be identified, and then those percentages in turn are applied to the cost of those improvements, and that's how fair share cost is calculated.
Right, thank you. And to piggyback off of that, do you think it's more efficient to have, because you said in other cities they have fees that are established already, would you say it's more efficient to have those established already or do it the way we do? And if it would be more efficient to do it the other way, would there need to be an amendment to code?
Yeah, normally, like I said, cities will have that schedule of impact fee set, but for Livingston, the reason that is not the case is because those schedules are tied to the general plan. And as we all know, the story here in Livingston, yeah.
Right, okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Were the owners going to comment?
It would be appropriate to open the public hearing and ask for comments.
Okay. Okay. At this point, we're going to open it up to the public comment.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners, Chair. Rod Hawkins, Hawkins and Associates Engineering. I'm the civil engineer for the project. And just want to thank Miguel for this last, like you said, cleanup. Should have been done a couple of years ago. But right now, to answer your question regarding, we've been going through the permitting process and the financing process. But we're basically just, we're on the crux of pulling permits for phase 1 to get it going. And we have a lot of interest right now in phase 2. So we need to, we're basically working on, or we're starting to work on construction docs for phase 2. Those will be submitted soon. I don't know, we have to, site plans have been approved, and I think we're clear, right, with the current proposal. I'm kind of hesitant to say the name, but I guess it's all public record at this point. We have Starbucks is interested in moving it forward on that site, and then another 2 restaurants. So it's critical for us to get this item zoned correctly so that we can move forward with our permitting process. But have the owners here with me tonight, or happy to answer any questions.
I do have another question. What allowed this to be on the agenda today that did not allow it to be on the agenda previously?
Staff's efforts. So just, yeah.
I know I was last here in December, and I had moved forward with the, what we call the project referral. I had started that process in November of last year. And so it would have been easy to move forward with this right after that. My predecessor, for whatever reason, was not able to move forward with this application. I've come back. I work here on a part-time basis, and I found the need to, move this forward. So it's like, hey, let's get this going to the Planning Commission and City Council. Eventually goes to the City Council.
Part of it probably too was the development driven in that all of a sudden we do have a significant interest in this. So we were more vocal about getting this done at this time. So we've kind of been focused on phase one for the last year or so, and not so much phase two, but now it's time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being patient with our process as well.
Thank you for all your help. Appreciate it.
You can ask if anyone else is interested or if anyone's on the phone. And if not, you can close the public hearing, then request additional questions. If not, ask for a motion for action. So
Okay.
is there anyone else?
Do we have any more comments from the public? Martha, do we have anybody on the phone that would want to comment? Okay. Then can we move forward with a motion to adopt?
All motion to approve.
I'll second it.
For the
Can we
record,
get
the public hearing will close at 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
We have to give them X amount of minutes.
8:18 or 8:17? Okay, I'm sorry. Almost. So it's been moved. I'm sorry, was there a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's moved by Jose,
Right.
by
Can we get a roll call, Martha?
Okay.
Yes, for the record, Japjit Singh, Paul motioned to approve, and second by Jose Flores. Roll call. Commissioner Japjit Singh Paul,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Flores,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Mohinder Konda,
Yes.
Vice Chair Renee Mendonca.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 4-0.
Okay, now
Now,
they
we
can come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will wait till the Planning Commission Chair and the alternate Planning Commission can come back, as there's no longer a conflict of interest.
For the break. Oh, that's nice.
We are now on agenda item number 10, other matters.
All right. So other matters, non-public hearing items, there's none for 10A. Next item is a report of the Community Development Director. So Miguel,
For our new commissioners, I'd like to introduce myself. I had not met you, Miguel Galvez. I'm a contracted land use planner with, I work for JB Anderson Land Use Planning. I have worked here intermittently. I enjoy working here, and then I work here on a part-time basis. I'm glad to be back. I will say that Gary Conti, the last Community Development Director for the city, is no longer with the city. And so I'm kind of filling in on a part-time basis until that position is addressed by the city. In terms of correspondence, we did receive a letter from the State Housing and Community Development Department. This letter's in front of you. It's their letter the review letter for compliance, review of the city's draft housing element. As you know, the city is in the process of updating its housing element. We've teamed up with the Merced County Association of Governments to do, update all of our housing elements, so we're continuing our process on that. Now that the state has provided their review letter, now our consultant, Rincon, will be responding to those comments and making amendments to the housing element. Those will come back to the Plan Commission and City Council for formal consideration and adoption. That can be sent back with changes to HCD. The goal is to have a housing element to be determined as in compliance with the state housing law. And that is continuing on its way. So you have a letter from them. Housekeeping items, the city continues to solicit applications to fill vacancies on the Planning Commission. I know there's one vacancy. I know we have 2 alternates, and we encourage residents to apply with the city clerks at City Hall to see if they want to serve on the Planning Commission. On the horizon, you also have a flyer. There's flyers out in the back at the entrance. The general plan update. Noe mentioned that the city's in the process of updating its general plan. Our current general plan is based on 1999. We tried to adopt it and update it in 2006, but we were challenged in court. So the city has been without an updated general plan since 1999, and we hired a consulting firm, Mintier Harnish, to assist the city in updating the general plan, and they are scheduling a community workshop. The community workshop is scheduled for Tuesday, October 29th, here in the council chambers from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. All the members of the community are invited to participate. It's really to help shape the future of Livingston. At this community workshop, the consultants will present 3 land use alternatives. One alternative is let's keep things as they are, keep them existing. Another is to consider growing out to the city limits. And a third alternative is to consider growing. And so these alternatives will be presented at this workshop. And so we encourage the commissioners, the council members, and the public to participate and provide inputs. Oftentimes it'll be a hybrid. It's like kind of cherry picking the different alternatives, and the desire is to come up with a preferred land use alternative that can be presented to the Planning Commission, City Council, and the community and say, this is what we want for the city of Livingston for the next 20 to 30 years. Then that will provide guidance for us to move forward with such things as traffic improvements and parks and things like that. So again, general plan update, community workshop, Tuesday, October 29th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. here at the council chambers at 663 Main Street. So come on out.
Can I interrupt real quick, Miguel?
I'm sorry?
Can I interrupt real quick?
Go ahead.
Can we, Martha, maybe can we get that in like a calendar invite for all of us?
Yes, I can send that over.
Okay. And then, real quick, Miguel, just hold your spot there. In regards to the planning commission members, I see that vacancy is still there. Has there been any discussion that we have alternatives in place, but do we know why that was never filled?
We want to reach out to the city manager about seeing if we can fill that vacancy. It makes sense to fill the vacancy with one of the alternative planning commissioners, and then request that vacancy for the alternative planning commissioner be filled. I will relay that request to the city manager, and you can forward that to the city council.
Cool, thank you.
The last item I want to report was that at this time, there's no item scheduled for the planning commission meeting on November 12th. Unfortunately, I have another commitment, and I won't be able to be here. There's something scheduled, but the next one would be December 10th, and that's where we will have, at least for sure, the time extension. We may have 2 other items coming up, a rezone and a site development, a site plan design review for an apartment complex, and perhaps a use permit for a trucking operation. We will see. That concludes my report.
All right, any questions for Miguel from the commissioners?
Thank you.
The only thing I got is maybe some of the concerns we had about the lack of movement on that apartment complex, and see what the delays are for the extension, and then our concerns now with the changes in our things. And I know that they have plans for changes also. Maybe that they can bring those forward on that next meeting so that we're better informed on the changes, and, you know, if we're going to provide an extension, that we're better informed on what their actual plan is.
Okay, I'm surprised they were not here.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to item number 12, Planning Commissioner reports, announcements, future agenda items. This portion of the agenda is reserved for the chairperson and commissioners to make brief reports on public events or activities, to request updates, and 3, to initiate future agenda items. Anything from the commissioners on item number 12?
I had a couple of things. One, just wanted to introduce myself formally. Obviously, it's my first time here. Thank you for your help in everything. And it was fun. And then one public event. Livingston High School homecoming is this week, this Friday. There will be a parade right here on Main Street that'll be going through. It usually goes from about like Rite Aid to the high school. Like our band, our color guard, our cheer. We'll have a bunch of floats. The kids have been spending a lot of time on them. They always have fun when the community comes out. And then obviously we'll have our football games after at the football field. Boys have been working really hard through the heat and the turf. Training staff's been out there. Shout out to Miss Alvia from the high school and her crew. But they're very competitive in our league right now. This is one of the first years that our football team has the opportunity to win league in multiple levels. And the boys always come to play. And so they're excited when folks come out. I encourage you to be there if you have time this Friday, and on Thursday for our freshmen potentially. But yeah, just wanted to extend that to you guys.
Thank you, and welcome. Anybody else?
I know homecoming and Centennial's the following day on Saturday.
That's right.
Starts at 8 o'clock in the morning to about 1 o'clock. So if anybody in the community graduated from Livingston High School, wants to celebrate 100 years of our high school experience,
Yep.
you know, just please come out. Definitely have that. The other thing I want to throw out there is that we do have a tax measure that's being proposed by the city for fire suppression, well, not, correction, for public service, correction. For our public service to just, you know, if anybody has questions, please reach out. The city does have a website that informs the public of what that tax measure does. I think it's real important, especially as commissioners who are planning for the future of Livingston, kind of let people know that that tax measure is out there, and to read up on it so they understand and get educated, and hopefully support a measure that's going to support our local law enforcement and fire service.
Is that the Measure L that you're going to be posting the sign?
Correct, Measure L.
Okay. You know, when we talked about posting the sign for it and that, if you wanted to leave any literature with me at the office as well, if people want to come in or have any questions, that I could give them that information?
So yeah, so the city has a flyer that has the website where the information can be located in regards to the measure. I will make sure you get some of
Oh,
those.
perfect.
So that people can be informed.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? So from myself, there is going to be a parade that goes from, or another Kirtan that goes from the B Street Gurdwara that leads the path of Briarwood up to Peach, and to the Peach Street Gurdwara, which is going to be on October 20th, a Sunday. That's going to be at 11 a.m. So folks, if want to participate from the community, they're more than welcome to join. And, you know, there's always good food and, you know, prayers and all that stuff. So that's something just wanted to share that out with the community. And also from some of the newer commissioners or any of the commissioners that need a refresh, I would suggest that we look into some type of like I know the League of Cities or some type of planning commission conference that maybe we can, I don't know, whatever the budget allows for the city, that we can maybe 2, 3, or whatever. But I know, I was doing a research on it, but there is the League of Cities in the Planning Commissioner Academy, which is March 5th through the 7th in 2025 in Santa Rosa. So,
Yeah, I checked into that too, and we don't have further details, but I'll send a reminder and see who's interested in going.
okay. Yep. And that's all I have. I don't think there's any other issues or any other pressing items that is in the horizon. But, all right, well, with that, we're going to adjourn this Planning Commission meeting at 8:31.